Qing Hengjun seemed to have said all he intended to, as he rubbed the small box in his hands, lowered his eyes in thought, and fell silent. After a moment of silence, he stood up, turned around, and locked the dark-colored small box back into the cabinet. Before he left, he gently patted Wei Wuxian on the shoulder. Wei Wuxian watched his silhouette disappear into the night, dazed for a while. When he finally turned around in silence, his gaze unconsciously fell on the tightly locked wooden cabinet. He took a few steps toward the cabinet and pulled out a talisman from his locked pouch. Lightly tapping it on the keyhole, he heard a clicking sound as the copper ring disengaged, allowing him to smoothly open the drawer. Holding the small box to his chest, he murmured softly, "Madame Lan, I, Wei Ying, have never believed in destiny or prophecies. Whether Lan, Zhan, and I stay together or part ways, we follow only our own wishes and choices. I boldly ask for your assistance. I will take this box with me for now. Since it is your relic, it must be extremely precious, enough to accuse me of theft multiple times over. When the Lan clan banishes me, I will definitely return it in its original condition. I apologize for any offense caused." He took out his own past jade token from his chest and placed it on the desk. Since Lan Zhan wanted to stop him from leaving, this jade token must have already lost its ability to grant passage and might even sound an alarm when approaching the mountain gate. At this moment, there was only one place he could leave Yunshen, the weakest point of the mountain gate barrier. Upon the green-tiled eaves, a figure stood in the moonlight. Lan Zhan was indeed guarding this spot. Wei Wuxian took a deep breath, hiding behind the wall, and finally tapped an invisibility talisman onto his chest. If it had been in the past, he might have been caught by the focused and diligent night watchman Lan Wangji. But the person tonight seemed to have lost his soul, shrouded deeply in the night, with confusion and helplessness etched into his brows. In the moonlight, a figure as ethereal as a dream or fog, silently and seamlessly, leaped across the green-tiled roof, passing the night watchman without a trace. Lan Wangji had been standing there in a daze, when suddenly a subtle scent of gentian flowers drifted past him. He was momentarily taken aback, noticing the faint phantom about to move away. Instinctively, he reached out a hand, a barely audible breath. Nothing but air. Lan Wangji's lashes subtly furrowed. Just an illusion. Just a foot apart, Wei Wuxian stared in astonishment as Lan Wangji suddenly turned towards him, his slender, fair fingers brushing right in front of him, just barely missing. Holding his breath and taking several long leaps, Wei Wuxian only slowly exhaled, once he had moved far enough away. He thought his plan was flawless, but wasn't sure what had almost given him away. However, this worry quickly faded. Forcing down the emotions surging in his heart, he silently whispered, "Lan Zhan, goodbye." And with that, Wei Wuxian left Yunshen. When he returned to Lotus Pier on his sword, the sky was just starting to brighten. On the silent long corridor, the fragrance of lotus in the morning mist filled the air. Along the riverbank, faint sounds of early risers setting their fishing poles and casting their nets drifted gently. The once longed-for familiar sounds and sights now seemed so insignificant to Wei Wuxian. He walked briskly along the empty corridor, the sound of his boots clanging. With a swift kick, he pushed open the door, dove into the soft white bed, covered himself with the quilt, and curled up into a small bundle. It wasn't until noon that Zhang Yanli, following her usual routine of dusting and cleaning Wei Wuxian's room, noticed the small mountain-like lump on the bed. Ever since Wei Wuxian got married, Madame Yu had continuously reminded Zhang Yanli that the empty room could be kept clean by the servants and that there was no need for her to personally tidy it up. However, Zhang Yanli still insisted on checking Wei Wuxian's room occasionally, making sure to clean those spots that the servants might miss. Just in case he suddenly decided to return one day, he would find the most comfortable and clean environment to rest in. "Ah, Xian?" Zhang Yanli put down her feather duster and lifted a corner of the quilt. a half-dead person with mass of disheveled hair, with eyes red and puffy, emitting hot, damp breath, was stirred and cast a tormented glance at her. When he was in Yunshen, all Wei Wuxian could think about was desperately escaping from that place and that person. He feared the version of himself that would become a chaotic mess inside the moment he saw Lan Wangji. The determination that he painstakingly built up crumbled under the other's gaze, and all his efforts to break free ended in vain. He found brief solace in the other's embrace, living on the edge until he was rejected once more. It was like a gentle trap, with various appearances that bewildered him. He had never liked someone so much, and he once offered his heart entirely without reservation. But through various signs, he finally realized that the other person wasn't as completely devoted as he had imagined. Lan Wangji's confusion, embarrassment, and difficulty were like the tip of the iceberg, gradually revealing themselves inch by inch with each moment of closeness. Under the guise of etiquette, he wrapped his love and affection, and under the same guise, his strict restraint and distance. As he drew Wei Wuxian close only to push him away, his true feelings became blurred in these contradictory actions. Perhaps even Lan Wangji himself didn't know what his feelings toward Wei Wuxian truly were. He was simply the little old-fashioned, molded by family rules and etiquette in every thought, word, and action. Naturally, his affection and love were also formed within this framework, stemming from passion but bounded by propriety, never exceeding nor falling short. For the rest of his life, this would be all he could offer, a love governed by rules and boundaries of a proper marital relationship. Anything beyond this, he could not give. Much like the choices he made initially, guided by the admonishments and predetermined words of his elders. Was this truly his own choice? Perhaps Lan Wangji believed it was, for he was one with these rules and boundaries, born from and inseparably woven together with them. One thought, one breath, coexisting and mutually restraining. What distinction was there, and why the need to differentiate? Perhaps this would be sufficient for others, but not for Wei Wuxian. If it were not the same wholehearted, unconditional, all-encompassing love, he would rather have none at all, because that was exactly how he felt toward Lan Wangji. He never wanted to be separated from him even for a moment, entangled with him until they grew old. Every bit of his love and longing came from his true heart, not from any sense of duty, etiquette, or destiny. He had resolved to break away, but after his escape, in the familiar, warm scent of lotus flowers at Lotus Pier, he found himself missing Lan Wangji once again. The thought of never being able to see Lan Wangji again, kiss him, be held in his arms, and sleep beside him felt like a piece of flesh being cut from his body, as if his internal organs were being dug out, his very soul being extracted fiber by fiber, until only a tiny, fragile part remained. "Ah, Xian, why have you come back?" Zhang Yanli looked at the dark and swollen circles under his eyes, filled with worry. "Ah, Xian, what happened?" "Senior sister." Wei Wuxian stared at her in a daze. Zhang Yanli's eyes widened. Wei Wuxian brought his fingertips to his chest. "It hurts so much here." The news of Wei Wuxian's return quickly spread throughout Lotus Pier. Everyone was overjoyed, laughing and cheering as they rushed to find their senior brother. However, they found nothing but a tightly closed door that remained silent despite their loud knocking. Zhang Yanli had to explain Wei Wuxian's unusual behavior to everyone, leaving them anxious and uneasy, feeling as if a storm was brewing. In the following days, Wei Wuxian shut himself inside, neither eating nor drinking. It wasn't until the night of the third day that a letter from Gusu arrived in Zhang Fengmian's hands. The letter bluntly accused Wei Wuxian of stealing a relic belonging to the deceased matriarch of the Lan clan, an act of great offense to the Lan clan's ancestors and entire family. It was a shocking and outrageous crime that violated the Lan clan's strict family rules, specifically the grievous theft mentioned in their 7 offenses law. According to their family rules, Wei Wuxian should be expelled from the clan. The letter was filled with righteous indignation and sharp words, with Lan Qiren's anger almost seeping through the paper. Everyone at Lotus Pier was greatly shocked. Madame Yu was furious, yelling for Jiang Cheng to go to the room and drag out that wretch to confess his crime and await punishment. When Jiang Cheng was studying in Yunshen, he had witnessed the affectionate interaction between Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji. When he kicked open Wei Wuxian's room door, he found a disheveled and dispirited figure curled up in the bed, which shocked him even more.